All right, welcome everyone. Today, we're going to go on a little journey to understand the world around us, and I mean really understand it. We're going to become material detectives, and trust me, by the end of this, you are never going to look at the stuff around you in the same way again. So let's start with a question that seems almost too simple. Why is a chair made of wood and a window made of glass? I mean, why not the other way around? The answer, it turns out, is all about the science of materials and their unique properties. So let's dive in and see what that's all about. And to help us out on this expedition, we're going to follow two very curious students, Gulan and Shita. Think of them as our guides, exploring the objects in their classroom and uncovering clues that we can use to solve the mysteries of materials. Okay, first key clue for our detective notebook. We are surrounded by objects, right? But the actual stuff they're made from is called a material. So, your phone is the object. The glass, the metal, the plastic, those are the materials. Getting this difference is the foundation for everything we're about to figure out.
So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to figure out what things are made of. Then comes the fun part. We'll start sorting them by their properties. You know, how they look, how they feel, even what they do when they get wet. And finally, we'll uncover the ultimate secret of what all this stuff really is.
All right, section 1. What is everything made of? Our investigation starts with the most basic question of all. And the idea is really simple, but it's so important. Objects are made of materials. Sometimes an object is made of just one, but often it's made of a bunch of different ones. Think about a simple pencil. You've got wood, graphite for the lead, a little metal band, and rubber for the eraser. Once you start seeing things this way, you can't stop. Okay, section 2. This is where the real detective work begins. Now that we know everything's made of materials, how do we start telling them apart? Well, our first set of clues comes right from our senses, what we can see and what we can feel. Our first property is called luster. It's just a fancy science word for, well, is it shiny? Some materials have this ability to reflect light, and we call those lustrous. And the ones that are kind of dull and don't shine, you guessed it, they're non-lustrous. You see this all the time. Metals like iron, copper, or gold are usually really lustrous, really shiny. In fact, if you ever see a piece of metal that's just been cut, it's super shiny, even if the outside has gotten a bit dull. But then you have things like paper and wood, which are classic examples of non-lustrous materials. Next up, let's use our sense of touch. How do we figure out if something is hard or soft? And I don't just mean by feel, there's actually a scientific way to test it. So in science, hardness is all about how well a material can resist being compressed or scratched. A stone is hard because you can't easily squish it. An eraser is soft because you can. But here's the really interesting clue. Hardness can be relative. Think about it. Rubber is way harder than a sponge, but it's also way softer than a piece of iron. It all depends on what you're comparing it to. Moving on to section 3. Let's go back to our eyes for another clue. And this one's a big one. Can you see through it? This all has to do with how light decides to behave when it hits a material. You know, a simple game of hide and seek is the perfect way to understand this. First, Gulan hides behind a wall. You can't see him at all, right? That wall is opaque. Then, Sarah hides behind a frosted glass door. You can kind of see her shape, but it's all blurry. That door is translucent. Finally, Shita's brother is just watching through a regular window. He can see everything perfectly. That window is transparent. So, there are our 3 categories. Transparent for a perfectly clear view, like glass, translucent for a blurry, fuzzy view, like frosted glass, and opaque for no view at all, like a wooden door. These 3 words help us classify a ton of materials.
Section 4. Now, this is a fascinating one. I like to call it the Great Disappearing Act. It's the mystery of what happens when you try to mix a material with water.
So let's go back to Gulan. He's thirsty after playing, and his mom is making him a cool drink of shikanji, which is like lemonade. He watches her stir in salt and sugar, and after a few seconds, they're gone. They just disappeared. So where'd they go? Well, that little magic trick is called solubility. If a material completely dissolves in water, like salt and sugar did, we say it's soluble. But if it doesn't mix in and just sinks to the bottom, like sand or chalk powder would, we call it insoluble. And this is so much more than a kitchen trick. This property is absolutely essential for life. I mean, our bodies are more than 70% water, and water's amazing ability to dissolve so many different things is literally how nutrients get carried through our blood to every single cell. It's vital.
All right, we're at the final section. We have sorted all our clues. We've looked at luster, hardness, transparency, and more. But what is the one big secret that connects all of it? Fundamentally, what is all this stuff?
And the answer is matter. That's it. Every single material, from the air you're breathing to the phone in your hand, is a form of matter. It's the one name for all physical stuff in the universe. And for anything to be called matter, it has to have two key properties. First, it's got to have mass, which is basically just the amount of stuff that's in it. And second, it has to have volume, which is how much space it takes up. If it has mass and it has volume, it's matter. It's really that simple.
So let's wrap up our investigation. We started by seeing that all objects are made of materials. Then we learned how to classify those materials using properties like luster, hardness, transparency, and solubility. And finally, we uncovered the big secret. All of these materials are just different forms of matter, which is anything with mass and volume. So now, you're a material detective. The whole world is your laboratory. That chair you're sitting on, that cup on your desk, that window you're looking through, they all have stories to tell through their properties. So look around, start classifying, and stay curious. Your investigation has just begun.